these type of things are so out there that, this guy, Steve Quayle, talking about the aliens, saying that aliens are going to be used as proof that they created us and not God. That
aliens created us?
Oh yeah, the aliens created us, and now they're coming back to save us. And that's proof. See, all these people want proof that there's a God, right? Well, now government's going to introduce proof that there is no God, and that all you need is government. And 90% of the people will believe it. That's what we've seen through this whole thing. The same idiots. Yeah.
No, it's, I do feel like, and it sounds cuckoo, that we are slowly being corralled and herded. No doubt about it. If you're rational or sane at all, just based on basic observation, right?
Well, it's really not so slow now.
Well, okay.
I mean, 9/11 is really when the speed started to pick up. After 9/11, I remember hearing these interviews between these guys who were from the intelligence community, and they're like looking at each other like this. They're like, "Can you believe we got away with this?" Nobody's even questioning it.
No, the average American citizen, dude, is, again, I don't want to be critical, but I don't know what to say. Asleep? I don't know what the term is. Oblivious? Comatose?
Overwhelmed?
Definitely overwhelmed. I mean, and I'll admit, I always admit it to you, 5, 7, 10 years ago, I was that person. I was totally asleep. And somehow I've awakened through various means.
You're lucky. I mean, we joke it's better not to take the, red pill. It would have been better to take the blue pill. But in reality, no, I'd rather, I mean, I don't want to be, I mean, because think about it. If you're a zombie, you're like those, what do they call those characters in the games that they're there and they're walking into walls going, doing. That's all you are. That's all these people are who do these things mindlessly. They're just these characters in the games who are just there for, just to fill the screen. They're just mindless drones.
Well, it's, I was listening to this guy, like I said, before you got on, and he was citing great statistics about housing, unemployment, the labor rate.
He's saying, go out and buy right now. Buy.
No, he thinks eventually, the housing market's definitely, it has to adjust in a downward manner. But then the other thing he talked about was labor participation. He doesn't see it coming back the way that the government says it will. The statistics, as you know, that are reported on unemployment are not even close. Like, I don't know where he gets this shadow statistics, but we know.
Well, you just said it. He gets it from shadow stats.
Unempirically, we know that, when they say 6% unemployed, you just know intuitively that that's double or triple. Easy. And it could be over 20%. It could be over 20% because so many people drop off, as you know, after the unemployment benefits after 28 weeks, whatever it is. They drop off. And I know in my category, at my age, it's very difficult to even get interviews because they look at when I graduated, right? And then they can swag how old I am, right?
Yeah, some people don't put the year that they graduated.
Well, yeah, I know. But that's a double-edged sword. If you don't put the year you graduated, they're not stupid. They're like, why is he not putting the year? Oh, he must have graduated in 95, 92, 85. at least 25, 30 years ago. So that puts him, let's say he graduated at 25, so
Either he's too
40,
old or he's too young. That's why he's
yeah,
not putting it.
yeah, he's 48 minimum. So, which means he could be 50 plus.
Especially if your resume says, if the name of the school changed and it's the old name.
Well, that's a great point too. Like in our case, if I were to update my res, which I do every so often, should I be updating it for example, I should be, shouldn't I?
Yes.
Makes sense, because if they do a search, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because that'll definitely give your age away, but not that it matters. But but you could leave it at the old name. I mean, who cares? Who cares?
Well,
Because you're putting the year anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, I put the year. I mean, I don't play games. It's like,
well, in some countries, like in China, you have to put like your vital statistics and a photo on your resume.
vital statistics like what?
Height, weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they don't want fat people.
They don't want fat people.
And they want good-looking people. So what their version of good-looking. So if you're a good-looking woman, they put their photo on there.
Yeah, well, the reality is, and it goes unsaid in America, nobody would ever admit it, but they like young people, don't want any white hair, preferably good-looking or very good-looking. And as long as you're somewhat intelligent and somewhat articulate, that's what they want, because they want to be able to use you and showcase you.
Why do they want young people?
Accordingly. Why do they want young people?
Mm-hmm.
You tell me.
Oh, well, I just wanted your opinion before I gave it.
I think on average, they're going to take a 25, 30, 35-year-old way before someone like me, even if I know more, for a variety of reasons. Even if I have more experience, whatever. Now, they're going to have more experience and knowledge with me in certain areas, particularly social media, on average, right? So
you said they're going to look for young people. Give me a reason why.
Well, definitely, if they're 35 and under, for social media reasons, right? They're probably more adept at that stuff, even though obviously I'm familiar with it, whatever. I mean, these people grew up with it with their baby formula.
Well, what if that's not in their job responsibility?
Yeah, but everything is digital in some way, shape, or form now. We're going towards everything is mass digitization across the board. Everything. I mean, everything. Everybody's got a smartphone now, right? Everybody's got applications on their phone.
Do you think that's the top reason why companies prefer to hire younger people?
Well, that's a good question. The top reason probably would be pure financials, right? They can hire them half the money. And if they're single, they don't have a family. So now they can cover their whole insurance costs easily, because they don't got to worry about a wife and kids. If you have a wife and kids, guess what? You're paying for the wife and the kids probably out of your pocket with most companies, unless they're a big global company. If they're a Verizon, or maybe, I don't know, an AT&T or a JP Morgan, maybe they might cover you. But then there's a big price for that, right? I mean, you're going to be a slave for them, right? But yeah, no, you're right. It's financial. Yeah. If I can hire 2 30-year-olds instead of the 50-year-old.
Yeah, that's the primary thing. But you touched on the other one. Is it's a lot easier to train somebody with less experience than with more. You're set in your ways as a 50-year-old.
Well, more so. I mean, it depends on the individual, but on average, absolutely.
And you touched on it as well. As you like, that's why a lot of companies, for a long time, prefer to hire men in certain jobs, because they know that a woman, when she gets married, gets pregnant, she's gone for a year. And, big companies, maybe they can afford that kind of fat, but a medium to small company, they don't want to start looking for a replacement temporarily, because now, she's going to want to come back. Maybe she isn't. It's, again, who wants that headache? Because most companies look at people, unfortunately, as a necessary evil.
I agree.
That's
Totally.
why, that's why when these opportunities came for these companies to outsource people, hey, you mean instead of me having to deal with all this bull crap, I can just bring in a box from China with a nice bow on it and I can just ship the box
Yeah, no,
at half the price?
well, I think there's a lot of truth to that now, especially now, because there was a time, maybe 2 generations plus, where they thought probably differently. There was more of a fiduciary sense of whatever, because I think on average, the family was more intact. And I think on average, although imperfect, on average, kids growing up, especially our generation or before, were taught certain basic things, particularly work ethic, right? It's like when you get a job, guess what? You show up every day, starting Monday morning. You get there at 7:38, boom, ready to go. Already had your coffee and you're rolling, right? Today, things are more optional in a lot of ways, right? Kids are not getting, because of the breakdown of the family, without diatribing too deep into that, they're not even getting basic work ethic. It's like things, well, yeah, I know I'm supposed to start at 8, but I got here at 8:23. That's pretty good, right? Or 8:41, and
Yeah, or for them, it's just if they show up, that's all that counts.
yeah, I showed up. I know it was 10:30, but I showed up and I put in 5.2 hours, dude. What's the issue? Our generation, yeah, we're showing up and we're putting in an extra 2 hours at least on average, right?
No,
Or
I
more.
don't know anymore.
Well, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Just your parents, we were bred that way, right? That's not the case anymore. It's just not the case. And we were also taught that the boss is the boss.
Yeah, and here's the double-edged sword to that is now those people, unlike us when we were in our 20s, today people in their 20s are going toe to toe with people from China, from Russia, from Philippines, from Ireland, from Africa. I mean, it's toe to toe because of technology.
Well, yeah, because of globalism, yeah, and technology.
And so now, hey, or India, as you've seen, is, if somebody from India is willing to work 15 hours a day for half the price, 7 days a week, and you're like, what? I don't want to do that. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're headed to. It's more and more, I feel like, of a higher level as time goes on of indentured servitude. Here's your salary. I mean, you can barely cover the freaking rent and buy food. Thanks. And you got to work like 6 days a week at least.
That's why you work at home now.
Yes, that's right.
Gee,
Because
what a coincidence.
Dave, that's a great point. Because Dave, I'm saving you an hour to 2 hours a day for the commute. That's a little bit of extra, efficiency and productivity.
And it costs them less money on overhead. They don't need an office.
Huge. And, yeah, maybe you can't have dinner with your family, but you're home. You work until 7 or 8 every night, but you're home. So yeah, it's I don't know where this merry-go-round stops.
Well,
I don't
it's a psyop. So
I don't see it stopping. That's my point. I
you
see
always have to question everything. What is the real agenda? What is the real agenda? It's never what they tell you.
Well, what's behind the obvious? Correct.
Where is this leading? You already said it.
Obvious.
You feel like you're being corralled. You are being corralled.
We are, in my opinion. Absolutely. And when I say that sometimes in whatever passing or certain casual conversation, some people kind of agree, but some don't, and they're like, well, what are you talking about, man? What are you, a tinfoil hat guy? I mean, it's like, well, don't you feel that way a little bit? I mean, just intuitively.
Yeah. And what I try to focus on, like when we talk to Jim Willie, right? Jim talks about, the Q and the white hats and I mean, that's all fine and good. If that stuff's going down, great. I hope it's true that there's this battle going on, but we have to be focused on what we can do. what we can do. And that's why what I've always said to you is you have to focus on yourself and your inner circle, because
I think you're right. Because that's all you have really control over.
That's it. And a lot of people are failing at that.
I'm sure I can do better myself. Absolutely. I'll be the first to admit it. I can do better myself. Definitely.
Well, it comes to priorities, Dan. We only have, we talk about this a lot when we're not filming. And I tell you, as I get older, I am less efficient. Okay. In some ways I'm more efficient, but in many ways I can't do as much as I used to do. And I don't want to work like a dog like I used to do. So it means I have to be more intelligent in how I go about things. So instead of having a priority list of 10 items that I'm going down, I now have a priority list of like 3 items. Right? I agree. And if it's not on that list, it doesn't go. And I see so many people that are like, well, how am I going to get to this list when I have to worry about this? I battle with you on this all the time.
No, I'm guilty.
I'll be like, Dan, what are you doing? It's not even, where's your priorities? It's not on the list. It goes to the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it has no value, but you can't say that all of a sudden something here and then you put it to the top of the list when it's not really there. Just because somebody's screaming at you.
Yeah, no, I'm guilty of that. I mean, as you get older, you got to realize you got to refine things more. You really got to narrow it down to the top 3 to 5, 5 maybe pushing it. But once you get 7, 9, 12, 15, I'm guilty like the next guy, 17 things on the list. I've been there, believe me. It's like, well, really, do you really need 9 of these things? I could probably cut out half right there. Like that, if you really thought about it for a second.
Yeah, and I forget the marketing term. I never remember the official name, but I call it like the law of none. I've told you about this. Is if you overwhelm yourself with too many options, too many of anything,
then nothing gets done.
Then you default to 0.
Very little.
Like when somebody what would you like to drink? What are my options? You have Coke, Pepsi, tea, blah, blah, blah.
Right. No, you're right. I think what do the marketing guys say? Anything beyond like 3, you really should give 3 tops.
2.
Okay.
2. That's why you'll always hear we have Coke or Pepsi. We have coffee or tea.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We've got
it really narrows it down, but you're right. If you rattle off literally 7 things, 9 things, that's when people get into like equation mode.
Yeah. It's always an either or.
Yeah, either or really narrows the scope.
And so that's why I created that list, that I've talked to you for years about, because, when you go through transitions in life, one of the difficult things is trying to figure out how you want to live the rest of your life. Because a lot of people, transitions can be difficult. And so sometimes breaking it down simply. And that's why, for me, number one, it's great weather. That is my most important thing. So being in this weather where it's 42 degrees and rain, this is my least favorite weather. It's terrible.
It 42 today where you're at?
It was this morning. It's now 55. And then it comes down to, the rest of my list. We don't need to discuss it.
No. The point is you got to have your priority list, top 3, 4 things, whatever, right?
Then you know where to put your time and energy. Then you know what your priorities are. Right?
Yeah.
Now, realistically, I'm not the greatest Christian in the world, but I do try to live. I do believe in Jesus Christ. I do try to focus on the end game, and the end game is salvation, right? I try not to get caught up in the minutia because it's not going to matter someday. That's why people will say, "Hey, Dave, how you doing?" And I'll be like, "I'm breathing," because it's just the basics, and I could be doing more. I could be doing more, but
Well, and the truth is we all can. You're not alone. You can always do more. But then the question is, what is more and sort of why? What's
well, you
what's
see
the
these,
purpose
you
other
see,
than more?
right. Well, you see these people, and that's why I try to focus on you, my family, inner circle. Those are the people I try to help. And so those people in my inner circle, as you can attest to, I have put my time and my energy into helping those people the best
Right,
I can.
right,
That's where I put it.
right.
If some stranger needs help, maybe I'll help, maybe I won't, depending on, right, the circumstances. But again, it comes down to how much can you do? And so, and that's one reason why we do these videos, Dan, because for me, and I think you're the same, it's one way that we can take the energy that we're putting out discussing this. Maybe it will help somebody else. Maybe it won't, but that's what we're doing, is we're doing it in our attempt to help somebody else work through these same issues. And maybe it will help them.
Yeah.
And if it did, great. If it doesn't, so be it.
That can be the beauty of technology slash, social media. That's one of the benefits to kind of help it's another tool or impetus to, kind of help your fellow man. That's a good thing, right? We're supposed to help each other at the end of the day. We're supposed to be good to each other at the end of the day. Now, I suppose you could challenge that and say, oh, really? Okay, well, was that written? Who says so? Well, without getting into that, just in general, don't you think, without getting religious, that it's just good to perform good deeds, to support each other? I mean, don't you, when you help somebody, I know I do, if I can help somebody in any way, shape, or form, I feel good about that afterwards, right? I feel like I did a good deed, right? I feel like I threw some positive vibes at that moment into the universe as opposed to otherwise, right?
Well,
I
yes.
can only speak for myself. I would prefer to do that than otherwise. Do you want to wear the white hat or do you want to wear the black hat? I tell my kids that all the time. Or the good guy hat, the bad guy hat, whatever. It's your choice. You have choice.
What do I always tell you about the airplane analogy, though?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. You got to take care of yourself first. On the surface, it may
Right?
sound,
When
no,
the
you're right.
oxygen mask drops down, what do they tell you on the plane?
Yeah, you got to put it on yourself first. Absolutely. And there's truth to that. On the surface, it may sound selfish, but actually there's a lot of practicality to that. If you take care of yourself, actually, besides taking care of yourself, you might be doing it not just for yourself, but for ultimate benevolent purposes, meaning for those around you as well that you care about, right? Because you're right. If you're a freaking mess, if you're a disaster, if you're 150 pounds overweight and blood pressure and unemployed and you can't pay the electricity bill that month, I'm making an extreme example, you're not going to be of much use and service to somebody else. That's just the practical truth. It's not sexy. It's just the practical truth. If you're that much of a mess, how can you be a benefit to anybody else? Even if you want to help them.
Well, how many people put all their time, their money, their energy, their resources into their children? And don't put their energy and resources into them and their marriage,
Oh
themselves
yeah,
in marriage, right?
great. Yeah, great point.
And
I
they
mean,
think
that's
that
why
that's the
America.
proper, they think that's the proper priority.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that is such a misnomer, a mistaught, or whatever the word is, big time, right? Now that I'm older and I realize certain things and I'm a little more, I guess, smarter overall, and if I could fix or do certain things a certain way again I would. But what I would tell young people is, particularly that are getting married or married, is that the priority is in this order. You put God first, then your marriage, then your children, right? Okay, job is probably got to be somewhere in the top 5 because the reality is we live in a financial world, and you got to make ends meet at least to a certain extent. But those would be the top 3, right? I think in America, we get it wrong, and the statistics show it. It's like, especially when people get married and have children. The children are first. The children are first. I'm not saying don't care about the children. Of course you do. But they're first, no matter what, at any cost. Oh, yeah? We're proven that it's at any cost. Look at the divorce rate on first marriages. It's like 60%, right? The kids wouldn't even exist if it weren't for the marriage and the relationship between the husband and wife. That's what we get wrong, right? So, no, you don't put the kids first. No, I'm sorry. The kids don't rule the nest. The 5-year-old doesn't call the shots, or the 12-year-old. The spoiled 12-year-old that wants a $400 baseball bat like right now, or else they're going to freak out. They don't run the show.
And it just comes to time. I know families that are like, yeah, we have to drive like hours to take Johnny to this hockey game
100%.
in Niagara Falls.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's another thing with traveling teams. I played on so many baseball teams growing up as a kid, but we didn't travel all over the East Coast. My parents didn't drive me anywhere. I can count on one hand how many times they drove me over the years. And I'm fine with that. The coach drove us. We got to one spot. You got in the old whatever station wagon, or you got on the little school bus. It wasn't cool, but everybody didn't show up in their own Tahoes, right? With their own bag of equipment, $1,000 worth of gear, right? That's how it is now. The kid thinks he's pro at 11, right? Shows up in his own Tahoe with his own bag and his own shades. He's got the whatever under his eyes if he's playing ball. It's like, really?
Yeah.
That's how it is now. And you're a bad parent if you don't roll that way.
Yeah,
So
but
I know I sound old school and antiquated, but think of the lunacy of it all.
Yeah, and how many people actually sit down and have dinner together every night?
Nobody. We grew up
that simple goes a long way.
I grew up that way. Every day, like clockwork, at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, all four of us sat down after my mother prepared the meal, and we had dinner. It was like clockwork every day. I mean, I know it sounds like Leave It to Beaver, old school, whatever, but that's how it was when we were growing up. That doesn't.
But for most families, there's no reason why that can't be done. And also, it's not one of these things where the family gets together and everybody's on their devices.
But dude, I hear you. The
They're
argument
not really together.
The argument would be time, difference in schedules, and then, oh, by the way, if they did physically somehow, even once or twice a week, manage to get together, then you've got the third issue of what you just said: technology. You've got the phone and social.
Well, as I started the conversation with, it comes down to priorities.
Well, yeah. So what you got to do is the leader of the household, you got to tell everybody, give me the cell phones. They're going in the basket here. That basket's going in the corner for an hour. We're sitting down and we're having dinner as a family, and we're going to actually look at each other while we eat and maybe have some conversation and stuff. But that doesn't go on anymore by and large. At least I don't think it does. I'd be willing to bet on that.
Oh, no. My kid texted me. She told me what was going on. Right?
Come on. Okay, great. But when's the last time
She sent me a video update.
When's the last time you even sat down with the kid, whether it was breakfast or dinner? During the day, lunch is tough. I get it because people are working and the kids in school. But breakfast and dinner, or at least dinner, it's not happening, man. It's not happening. So you wonder why we're disjointed, right? You wonder why we can be corralled now as a result.
Well, yeah.
It's
almost like getting married and children and certain things. It's like a checklist. Okay, check.
Well,
check.
Well, it is, but on the other hand, I can't think of any other way. I mean, that is the family unit. The basic family unit is the building block and foundation of any, at least I think, stable culture or civilization. I mean, it all starts with the family unit.
Well, it comes down to transferring. If you look at families, more than 50 years ago now, back to the 50s, we'll go. The 50s, early 60s, something like that. Whether it's white family, a black family, Chinese, Hispanic, they were stable. They were stable back then. for the most part.
Yeah.
Right? You had a mother and a father at home. It was
100%.
you did these things.
Yeah.
It was more homogenous back then, family.
Absolutely. It wasn't, yeah, absolutely. 100%. Now, was it perfect? No. You know, it's funny because there's certain people I talk to that are older than me, particularly in my family, and like, yeah, but you had stuff going on. There was alcoholism, and some of the husbands were beating up on the wives. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure that probably happened, but by and large, you know what I'm saying, right? It was a more stable family unit, by and large. Divorce wasn't as rampant as it was, etc. It just wasn't. Right? People weren't married, and I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying weren't married 4 times and had 5 kids with 4.
Yeah, you weren't trying to make your boy into a transvestite girl.
Yeah, that too.
Right? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, we have to have a male, a female, a metrosexual, a eunuch, you know, I'm a 0 sex,
right.
I'm a 1 sex.
Well, where I was going with this, Dan, is in the 60s you had Johnson's Great Society that then started transforming big government replacing daddy. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you had all these social programs where you don't need a father in the house. Okay. And that's why primarily, I mean, whites have been affected, but the black family has been decimated since the 60s. I think, don't hold me to this, but I remember seeing an article online, and I think it was like 80% of children in black households now are born out of wedlock.
Is it that high?
Yeah.
Really?
And whites,
that high.
Whites are pushing higher too. I mean, I want to say it's like 50% or 40. You know, think about all the people you know who are having kids and they're not married.
Oh yeah, it's commonplace now. It's commonplace. And you know, you could argue, well, you know, you're antiquated, man. Well, what do I got to be married for? Well, okay, I don't know what to say to that. I just think, you know, you know, when you get married,
yeah, we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm just
stating
that, you know, if you talk about the basic funding foundation, the building blocks, then obviously when things start falling apart, sometimes like in Jenga, when you pull the blocks out, sometimes when you pull a piece, it falls over immediately, but sometimes it takes a couple moves, right? Sometimes you have to pull out 3, 4, 5 pieces before the tower tips over.
That's a great point.
And now we're getting to the point in our country where, you know, as I've said to you, I said the proof's in the pudding is, you know, you can look around and you see really a lot of problems that are, they're never going to be addressed because what they do is they put one problem on top of another problem.
I agree.
So do you want to get into Bill Cooper?
Yeah.